I am a late 20s female, and this happened fairly recently. Nothing bad happened to me, but I'm lucky it didn't, and it easily could have. There is a conservation area that I used to like to walk in regularly. It's beside a golf course, near Ordinary Subdivision, just off a busy road, and it's popular with dog walkers and photographers. The conservation area is fairly well maintained, and alerts its users that there are hidden cameras everywhere. My point in bringing attention to all of this is to say that, by all account, this is a very safe, vanilla, urban wooded area in a populated area. One big thing about me is that I like isolation to recharge. I dislike crowded trails, and by convention go in off-peak hours or when weather is unpleasant. Not dangerous, but unpleasant. Like too cold, lightly raining, foggy, etc. I stay safe, but I like there to be as few people around as possible. In the city, in daylight, I don't feel like I'm taking any risks by doing this. First encounter. There was one day I went around 4 p.m. or so on a frigid, rainy Monday in November. On days like that, there may be only 1 or 2 dog walkers, but today, there was no car in the parking lot, except for a dirty blue pickup with a man sitting in it. I noticed that he was looking at me, but that didn't really bother me. I was just happy to see the trail was empty. On this regular day, I went to the area to practice my navigation skills. I was learning how to use a compass at the time, and it's good to practice that skill in an area that you won't get lost in. So I decided to go off trail to a big pine plantation, which is a big open area with large mature pine trees, if you're not familiar. It's not a hiking area, or really that interesting in any way. And definitely off trail. You wouldn't get there unless you really wanted to get there. So I pick my first landmark and sight it using my compass. I'm pacing towards it. I find myself about halfway there and I hear rustling through bushes, and I turn around to see the man from the dirty blue pickup truck there, entering the pine plantation. Mid-50s, white man, a little pudgy, wearing a baggy beige cardigan and blue slacks. I feel pretty alert at this point. Feels out of place somehow. I take note but pretend to keep walking around with my compass because I don't want to seem weird. I look at him. He pretends to ignore me. I'm getting a really bad gut feeling about this situation for some reason at this point, and I'm feeling like he's following me. But I have an anxiety disorder, so I try not to freak out for any reason. I just don't want to ruin my relaxation time. It's just a guy walking around, no big deal. To see if he's following me, I pivot 180 degrees and walk directly towards the trail again. He's still following me. I walk through the bushes onto the trail, still following me. At this point, I was freaked out. The pine plantation entrance is only about 50 feet on the trail, so this guy would have walked 50 feet, entered the pine plantation, then decided that was it for the day. Bad odds. Definitely following me. I quickly exit the trail, and when I'm leaving the parking lot, I see that he's still looking at me. I take the long way home. The experience freaks me out, and I only visit the area once before the second encounter. This time was in January. This time I wanted to go bird watching. A week prior, I had seen an owl in the same pine plantation. I was practicing navigation again, and I wanted to see it again. I had seen it about an hour before sundown, so I figured that it was a good time to try and see it again in the same area. I checked the parking lot and there was no blue pickup truck, but there were 2 other cars with men. One was a red sedan with heavily tinted windows, and it looked like the other one was empty. So I go on the trail again. Today is muddy, wet, cold. Area should be totally empty. Good. Unfortunately, not so much. About 20 feet on the trail, I hear footsteps behind me. I don't like when people walk behind me, but it's not a crime, and I'll lose them soon when I get into the pine plantation. I'm sure you know where this is going. When I walk into the pine plantation, there is the same rustling of the bushes before, and when I turn around, I see the same man from before. I feel a wave of terror and dread overcome me, alone in a muddy forest with a possible stalker. But it's still so calm and it feels so mundane. To confirm my fears, I walk over to the area where I saw the owl last week and pause to look for it. Who do I see next to me? It's the same freaking guy from before. I'm terrified at this point and every part of me is screaming, "Run!" So I walk as fast as I can to the trail again. I passed another random guy in the same pine plantation and smiled at him, just totally on autopilot. He smiles back. It wasn't until I was in the parking lot where I got freaked out that there was a second person in the same pine plantation. Could they have been connected somehow? I stop briefly in the parking lot and take out a small notepad to quickly write down the license plate of the two cars. This gives the original man time to catch up to the parking lot. I am booking it on foot out of the parking lot, and he yells towards me, "Can you give me a ride?" And I just shake my head and keep walking. As I walk away, he begins to follow me to his car. He waits at the intersection to see which direction I'm going, and I decide to walk into a busy park to lose him. He pulls into a nearby hidden driveway and stares at me, and takes out his phone to presumably take photos of me. He notes what direction I'm walking in and does a U-turn, and then drives really fast the other way. I took the long way home. I filled out a police report, and the police opened an investigation on it. I have not gone back to that conservation area since, and the experience has definitely left me with an ongoing nervousness to be alone. Doubtably more because I do not know who the second guy is, and I passed him so quickly. I only know that he was in his mid-50s and had glasses and was bald. The police unfortunately told me that there's nothing they can really do at this point, so the best thing I can do is stay vigilant and try not to let it freak me out too much. Unfortunately, this has totally ruined my love for going out into the wilderness alone. Nothing bad happened, but I think that was more because I was able to escape and lose him. Them? Before anything did go wrong. To the two random almost stalkers, let's not meet. This might be a little long, but it still gives me nightmares. I'm a 21-year-old female. I drive from Miami to Daytona Beach, near Orlando, almost every other week. I make sure to fuel up before I start off, but on this day, this one unfortunate day, I didn't. I left Daytona around 12 a.m., driving back to Miami. I drive a black Mustang 40th anniversary. I was literally flooring it back to home through I-95. The entire route was empty other than a few trucks and small cars here and there. I was jamming to some good music, not paying much attention to what was going on with my fuel tank. Around 12:30 to 12:45 a.m., the low fuel warning came up. I saw it and started looking for the nearest exit, which happened to be Boynton Beach. I've never been there, and I had no idea, still don't, about how the area is. I took the exit and saw that there is a Circle K right off the next exit. I was a little relieved because now I at least wouldn't run out of fuel in the middle of nowhere. Now with barely any fuel left in my car, I pulled up to this gas station. It's totally empty, and I can't even see a single car inside or even outside on the road. There were no people other than one tall man in a red-colored jacket walking around near the side of the gas station store where all the parking lots were. but he was not very close to the pump I was at. I was a little scared, but I usually try to shake my fear off by telling myself that it's nothing. This man at this point is looking at the ground, but kind of walking in the general direction of my car. I'm still inside the car, contemplating whether I should get out or stay in. Usually I would have gotten out and fueled, not being scared, but that day something in my gut told me to lock the door and wait inside until either he goes away or walks past my car. At this point, this guy is just a few feet away from my car, still not looking at me. I'm trying to tell myself it's okay. He doesn't even care that I'm here. I should get out. But then, my worst fear comes to life. This man looks up straight at me and dashes towards the driver's side door and attempts to open it. At this point, it's around 3 a.m. with no other people in the general vicinity. I literally froze for a second and thought, I'm going to die. He pulled on the door handle several times, trying to get it open. But then I somehow got my senses back, turned the car on, and floored it. He didn't let go of the door handle until I started the car and hit the gas pedal. I'm so thankful that despite the low fuel in my car, it still started up and drove off. I had nothing on me to defend myself. Nothing at all other than a plastic fork that I'd gotten from Panda Express earlier that day. I still can't get over the whole experience. It still scares the living shit out of me. Creepy man from the gas station, let's never meet again. I'm gonna start this story off by saying that at the time this happened, I was 19 years old, a sophomore in college. I was living on campus in their apartment-style dorms, and my college wasn't exactly in the nicest part of the city. So I'd usually drive a little bit further to go grocery shopping so I could be in a little bit more of a safer area. The night this happened, I was going to cook dinner and realized I didn't have some of the spices that I needed. Normally, I would have just said forget it and made something else, but the meat had already been thawed for a day or so I needed to cook it. I debated just going to the Walmart that was 2 minutes away from my campus, but it was getting late and I didn't want to go there by myself in the dark. The Walmart is right next to a major highway, and being a girl by herself, I felt uncomfortable risking it. So instead, I went to the Walmart that was about 20 minutes away, a few towns over. I got to that other Walmart and bought my spices, along with a few other things, and checked out. No problem. By the time I was done, it was now completely dark out. I was back at the driver's side of my car and putting my few bags in a passenger seat when I noticed a woman. She was African American, maybe in her 50s, looking at the back of my car. At the time, I drove a really old car, and if you knew your cars, it would be surprising that it was still running. I've had a few people in the past, usually men, look at it or come up and ask me about the car. I figured that this is just what that lady was doing, and I kind of ignored it until out of the corner of my eye, I saw her come around my car and stop about 2 feet behind where I was standing. I was parked next to a parking lot median, so it's not like she was getting in the car next to me. "Excuse me," she said. I turned around saying, "Yes?" Kind of prepared to answer, "What year or model is your car?" "My church is giving out leftover boxes of food from our food drive to help people in need. Could I give you one? We have them in our car over there." This immediately set off an alarm in my head. I mean, she had just seen me put groceries in my car. Why would I need something else if I just went shopping? Also, the churches and food pantries around my college were usually cleaned out after their shopping days for the people who really relied on things like food drives. There was hardly, if ever, anything that was just left over. I had watched enough Criminal Minds and read enough Facebook posts to know that this felt like a human trafficking lure. I stuttered over my words a bit at first, trying to figure out what to say, but finally got out, "Oh, no thank you, I'm good." I'd like to see it go to someone who could really use it. I felt like this was an okay response if she was really handing out boxes. "Are you sure? They're just right over in my car," she said, taking a step, making the gap between us a little smaller. I was panicking. As she stepped closer, I tried to nonchalantly put my hand in my bag and look for the small pocket knife my dad had given me. My mind was racing as I tried to find the knife, but also tried to keep my face looking calm and not suspicious. I repeated to her that I was good and the box of food should go to someone who could really use it. She finally seemed to let up, saying, "Okay, have a good night. God bless you." I told her to have a good night as well, and then, as soon as her back was turned, I got into my car and locked all the doors. As I pulled out of my parking spot, I noticed that the car she was walking to had 3 large men standing at the trunk of the car. They were barely illuminated by the parking lot lights, but I think it was an early 2000s white Nissan. As I tried to go down the parking lot aisles as fast as I could, I saw the men looking at the back of my car, just like the woman had. I then noticed that their eyes were shifted too. They weren't looking at my car, they were looking at my license plate. Just as I got to the end of the aisle, waiting to turn, I saw 2 of the men get in the front seats, and the other man and woman got into the back seat. Their car started, and they started to pull out too. I was having a full-blown panic attack now. Just a week before, my friend had posted something on Facebook about how 2 men followed her and her mom through a Walmart. Again, I had watched enough crime shows to know that this wasn't painting a pretty picture. I finally got my opportunity to turn, but the car was coming up behind me. I made a quick decision to take a really odd way back to campus. I made a ton of turns and went through a lot of small streets instead of taking one of the 2 main roads. I don't think I saw the car again after I pulled out of the parking lot, but I definitely was not risking it. By the time I got back to my college, I had calmed down a little. I started to wonder, maybe you're overthinking this. Believe that there's actually good people in the world. And I decided that if they were really giving out boxes of food, then hopefully it does go to someone in need. That was until I was walking behind my car, heading towards my building. There was an SF written faintly in white sidewalk chalk on the brown paint of my car. I was shocked and terrified, knowing that I definitely did not put it there. I said out loud, "Oh my fucking God," as I practically dropped my bags on the ground and rushed to wipe the chalk off with my sleeve. My car had been tagged. After a few seconds of wiping, the chalk was gone, so I locked my car, grabbed my bags, and raced into my building. I got into my dorm and saw the dinner I was supposed to make, but I'd lost my appetite completely. I put everything away and went into my bedroom, still reeling over what had happened in the last 45 minutes. I sent the whole story as a Snapchat video to some of my friends who were just as shocked as I was. One of my friends, Sarah, said that she thinks SF stood for single female. It made sense, which made the whole experience that much scarier. I called my mom afterwards and told her everything that had happened, and by the end of the call, she was sending me an Amazon package with pepper spray in it. I didn't go out after dark or by myself for about 2 weeks after that happened. I'd have a friend from campus or work go with me, or I just wouldn't go. The whole situation was terrifying, but I think the strangest part about all of it was that I was supposed to have been in the safer area. I drove all the way to Walmart because I had a bad feeling about the one that was closest to me. I started going to the Walmart that was closer to me after that, and I had never had a negative experience at the closer one since I started going. It's hard to believe that all the stuff I've seen on TV and the internet could have almost happened to me. So, to the people in that Walmart parking lot on November 2020, let's not meet ever again.